Right, we've got ourselves a new palm. I'm doing this video here because it's sort of a side by side with a palm in the ground, so you're going to see the differences. So let's explain what we've got. So this is a Trachycarpus fortuni crossed with nanus. It's not one you see every day. Nanus is a dwarf Trachycarpus, mainly subterranean trunk, so most of the trunk is underground. In fact, it can get about 6 foot of trunk, but it's mostly underground. They do trunk to 6 to 12 inches possibly. So what else do we know about the nanus? I mean, I've never seen a mature one in person. I've seen pictures, obviously. So it is naturalized, natural environment is China, mid to South China. Normally at a bit of altitude. They're not as hardy as your fortunis. They are, sort of classed as a shrub stroke dwarf palm. Very, very slow growing. I don't think that'd interest me to actually grow a straight nanus. But like I say, for this particular plant, I don't know how different that's going to be to a fortuni as it gets bigger. But I think we'll have to wait and see on that one. So this was from Hardy Palms. It was only $19.99. So we know that the nanus is very slow growing, but because this was quite reasonably priced for this size of palm, I mean, it's not small, it has got a bit of trunk already. We know it's not going to be a slow grower, because if it was slow, it'd be a lot more expensive. So it's got some hybrid figure to it. It is going to be at least as fast growing as a standard Trachycarpus, I believe. So what are the characteristics different to the standard fortuni? Well, again, I think that's going to wait to see, I guess. I mean, at the minute, if this weren't labelled up, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a fortuni, other than something that is sort of sticking out to me. If we look inside the leaflets where it joins the stem, there's a sort of spike at the end of it. Let me see if I can get it on camera. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but there's quite a prominent spike in the middle. I think it might be showing up there, whereas a standard fortuni is definitely pretty much on the flat side. There's no particular spike, so that's just one thing I've noticed by having them side by side. The leaves themselves, possibly a slight colour difference. The underside is definitely a sort of a matte blue, whereas your standard fortuni is pretty much the same on the bottom as on the top. So the nanus can be, as it matures, can be quite a blue-green colour to it. So this may well have a slight bluey tinge to it. Let's get these a bit closer. There is a colour difference, but you do get a lot of variation in your standard fortunis anyway. So that's not necessarily a distinguishing feature. So, like I say, I'm not one for getting a hybrid just for the sake of getting a hybrid, but I think in this case I did. I saw it at a good price. I thought, yeah, we'll try that. Again, to most people, the plant would look exactly the same to a standard fortuni, but for me, as a bit of a sort of palm collector as such, we think we're going to give it a go. I don't know where I'm going to place it yet. Again, with hybrids, I mean, you expect, I mean, let's just look at the name, because it's fortuni crossed with nanus. The fortuni is obviously the mother plant with the flowering plant, and that had obviously been pollinated by nanus. So obviously the name of the mother plant is always first, so it's not nanus cross fortuni, it's fortuni cross nanus. Anyway, it's neither here nor there at the moment. I don't know if that would have made a lot of difference to the hybridization process. I mean, like I say, the predominant genes are going to be fortuni, but you may well get a slight variation as it gets bigger. Looking at some other hybrids, maybe I think the fortuni cross with princeps is quite a popular one, due to the princeps having that really white underside. But the problem with that is that as they age, you can lose that white underside, and it could just look more like a straight fortuni. So I mean, sometimes the hybridization, it can show different when it's young to when it's older. So I'm thinking with this one, this could be looking more like a fortuni when it's younger, and as it gets older, could look more like a different leaf structure to a standard fortuni, and look more like the cross of the nanus. But again, this is still early days. I don't think there's many sort of large or mature specimens of this cross to sort of cross reference so much. But so going back to the nanus itself, so we've established that it's a dwarf bluey green. It looks very similar. Looking, researching online at pictures of mature specimens, and they are quite rare in their native habitat now. They do look very similar to Camerops humilis in leaf structure. They're sort of quite narrow, long leaflets, whereas obviously fortuni are normally a little bit sort of wider. So I'll give you a walk over to Camerops humilis, which is shade grown, which to me looks very similar to the pictures I've seen online to mature nanus. So let's have a look at that. Let's take the palm over anyway. So like I say, I'm just going by pictures I've seen online of mature specimens of a nanus, and they don't look too dissimilar to this. Now, like I say, this is just a Camerops humilis, and it is shade grown, so they're quite stretched, quite nice, long, stretched. So they're going to look similar to this, other than obviously not the spikes on the petioles themselves. So yeah, whether that will, as it sort of matures, whether that will take on that characteristic or not remains to be seen. I mean, there is a picture on a website where I brought this hardy palms of a larger specimen, and it looked like that the leaflets weren't fully separated right down to the petiole. They looked like they were sort of more joined a bit further up. So it did look a little bit different, but I mean, again, every hybrid, different genes could give you something slightly different, some variation. But so that's just my my thoughts and my reasoning on this particular hybrid palm. And like I say, for the price, I mean, I've seen straight fortunis at a similar size and a similar price, so why not get a hybrid rather than a standard? Yeah, could grow into something interesting. And again, these are, or nanus themselves, are very endangered in their native habitat due to the, I think the inflorescence, the flower spikes, because they're a dwarf palm, they get eaten by goats. So that's quite hard to get them to a point where they're going to seed, because the goats come along and eat them. So I think that's the biggest danger for that particular species at the moment. But again, sort of going off track a bit. So this is Fortuni cross nanus, and I'll find somewhere to put it. It's going to go in the ground. And regardless, in regards to hardiness, maybe not quite as hardy as a standard fortuni, but it doesn't need to be. I think this is going to be pretty close to bulletproof in most of the UK. And I know some people, some comments online saying they're not as, nowhere near as hardy as a fortuni, but I don't know. We'll wait and see. I think for me, that's not going to be. I'm not going to worry about it. That's not going to be an issue. Sort of, is it going to be hardy? For me, them fortuni genes is going to give it the hardiness. And yeah, like I say, we might get something interesting out of it in a few years' time. Right, let's leave it there. Thanks for watching.